Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Business Spotlight. I'm Todd Rodden. I'm your host today. I'm a certified executive and business coach. I own Aspire Action Coach based here in the Dayton, Ohio area, and thrilled to have Kevin Horan and Lance Kepple join us here today. They are the co-founders of PCA, Precision Cellular Analysis, providing some very unique services that I bet most of you listening today are not aware of. So excited to share their journey. For those of you who are new to the Business Spotlight, we're happy to have you join us. I encourage you to not only like this message, but subscribe to the channel so you'll receive other messages from other inspiring business leaders like Lance and Kevin in the coming days. So Kevin, Lance, we're thrilled to have you. We're intrigued to learn more about PCA and your stories. Maybe just take a minute and we'll start with Kevin and introduce yourself and maybe talk a little bit about what PCA is.
Thanks, Todd. I appreciate you inviting us on this program. So my name is Kevin Horan. I am a retired supervisory special agent with the FBI. I spent almost 27 years in the law enforcement field. I was a prosecutor before I got into the FBI, and pretty much my entire career with the Bureau was combating violent crime. So most of my assignments were with fugitives, homicides, robberies, narcotics, things of that nature. When I retired, Lance and I decided to start a business which would help give back to the law enforcement community that we had left. So that's what my role is in PCA today as a co-founder.
Hey, Lance, how about you?
Well, first, Todd, thanks for inviting us. We appreciate it. As you said, my name is Lance Kepple. Like Kevin, I retired from the FBI after 22 years. I spent my first 5 or 6 years in Philadelphia working organized crime, and then went and joined the FBI's hostage rescue team for 7 years. So I spent a good bit of time there. Following that, I came to Dayton, Ohio, worked on the Safe Streets Task Force, which is gangs, drugs, violent crime, and then joined the CAS team, the Cellular Analysis Survey team for the FBI, and retired and worked with Kevin to form PCA.
Incredible background, guys. I mean, just some of the things I can't even imagine some of the things you've experienced in your prior journeys with the FBI and law enforcement. And exciting to see how you're translating that into services you can provide back to law enforcement, but also build your own business in that journey. So maybe take a minute, start with you, Lance. Talk to what are the primary services that Precision Cellular provides?
Our core service is cell phone analysis, which is looking at the records associated with cell phones and deriving the information from that. Would be where was a phone, or what tower did a phone communicate with, who or what was it talking to or doing. You can determine from that where a phone could or could not have been. And we do all of that with the courtroom focus in mind. So all of this leads to an expert report that can be testified to in a civil or criminal trial. The other main avenue of our business is we do training. So the FBI provides some training to law enforcement on cell phone analysis, but they don't offer a path to achieve what they refer to in court as expert witness status. So we decided that we could do that. So we're doing a lot of training for law enforcement and even a few international agencies as well.
So in terms of the kind of building upon that, in terms of your target customers, you talked about some law enforcement agencies for the training. Is there any others who are looking for that training and or reaching out for that type of analysis work as well?
That's a great question, Todd. So for training right now, we only offer it to law enforcement or government folks. There's a few logistical hurdles that stop us from branching out right now. And that's a pretty known market. What's interesting is the cell phone analysis side is almost unknown or unused in the civil legal community. If you think about a civil case, anytime you'd be interested to know where a person was or who they were communicating with, cell phone analysis would be very useful in that, obviously. For example, one of our target audiences is the fraud investigators in insurance companies. Right, it's a multi-billion-dollar problem, and they're really underutilizing the information they could get from cell phone analysis.
So how are you, you talked about, hey, it sounds like awareness is a challenge, right? Hey, it's a unique capability. Some folks who've used it really value it, but trying to get the word out. So how have you found, what are the best ways to build that awareness, get the market to know about your capabilities, and to reach out and engage with them? Maybe Kevin, you could kind of expound upon that.
Yeah, we're fortunate with law enforcement. We're a pretty close community, so we have a lot of very good contacts within the law enforcement community. So we've leveraged those as much as we can. We've talked to as many police departments and prosecutors as we can, and we're well known in that area. The problem obviously is outside of that, and so how do we get to that? So word of mouth only goes so far. So what we did is we actually hired a guy who's very good at advertising and social media, which quite honestly, it kind of shocked me that we would ever need like a Facebook page or Instagram or something like that. And he set up all that kind of stuff for us for the sole purpose of reaching new customers that we would never typically come across in law enforcement. So there was a learning curve there. How do we reach out and touch these folks that have no idea who we are and what we do, and how necessary our skill set is to many of the problems that they face. They're just not aware of it. So education has been a big thing for us, trying to tell people about who we are.
And what methods, you mentioned a couple different social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Have you found more traction in one or the other?
I think those platforms do help us. I know that we've gotten some exposure, especially LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been amazing for us. But quite honestly, I think the one that we do maybe a little bit underrated for us, but I think is most effective, are our presentations. So anytime we do something in person for an audience, and we get out there and we get to show them what we've done, and we can meet them afterwards and put a face to a name and all that, it is by far the most effective lead generator that we have. We talk to a lot of people after we give these presentations, and typically somebody will give us some business as a result of that. So, our presentations are, not to toot my own horn, but I think they're very interesting. A lot of people have never seen anything like this, and so they want to listen to it, and they're intrigued by it. And we have those opportunities, we'll take them all day long.
So kind of building upon that, what type of groups, events would you be like a great guest speaker for? So if someone's trying to organize something, hey, hadn't thought about this capability or PCA, they might want to reach out.
We can literally tailor our presentation to any size audience or any length of time. We do full day presentations for, let's say, an entire prosecutor's office, or an insurance seminar or something like that. We've done them for bar associations. The Dayton Bar Association had a lunchtime series where I just did a 1-hour presentation, which was just an overview of the services that we offer. Those are very effective. So we'll come to people all day long and talk to them about what we are and what we offer. And it doesn't have to be a huge commitment. It can just simply be a 1-hour lunch presentation.
And I would imagine your presentations provide many real world examples of how your capabilities have been used to help with a prosecution or a defense potentially as well. Maybe Lance, I'll put you on the spot. Obviously, without sharing names, is there like an example case you would share that would highlight this is the power of the analytics that you provide and how they may be used in the real world?
Yeah, it's a great question. And sometimes during the presentation itself, a real world example presents itself. And actually not even sometimes, most times. Kevin's got the same stories where you'll be given a presentation and somebody comes up on a break. It's like, hey, we're looking at this right now. We have people out there searching. we have phone records. We don't know what to do with them. And I've literally at lunch sat down and spent 20 minutes looking at the records and said, you should go look right here, and get a phone call back an hour later. And they found a missing person had been gone for 5 days. So it can be quite effective when it gets in the right hands.
Outstanding. A missing person right there on the spot. Right. Think about that. That's just great. It's just one small example of the power of those analytic tools that you have. So you're what, about a year and a half, 2 years in to your journey as business owners?
Yes.
Yeah.
So and you come into this from a different angle, right? As neither one of you had been business owners before. So as you've ramped up the business and had some really good success, what's been the biggest roadblock you've had to overcome so far? Kevin, maybe we'll start with you. Lance, I'll follow up with you as well. Yeah.
I think it's just the overall lack of business experience that both Lance and I have. We have a lot of wonderful, incredible law enforcement experience. We never thought that we would have to be salesmen or marketers. So that's been a real hurdle for us. We struggle with how to do that effectively. Ironically, what we don't know is that, or what we've realized is that we've always had that skill set. When you're in law enforcement and you're recruiting an informant to give you information about a case, you're basically a salesman. You're trying to sell and convince this person to assist you in an investigation, and many times that takes some finesse, and it's very difficult to do. So we actually have the skills. We just don't maybe know how to necessarily apply them to the right areas yet. But we're learning.
And Lance, how about you? What's been the
and not to sound like an echo chamber, but Kevin's absolutely right. Our biggest hurdle was and is just a complete lack of any business background at all. I suppose if there's one strength that comes from that, is at least we know we don't know anything.
The first step to any 12-step program, right?
Right. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
So as you've grown, maybe take a second to talk to how you look at your team and how you're structured, how you leverage other resources. You mentioned briefly you've got somebody helping you a little bit with some marketing and social media, but describe the makeup of the rest of your team.
So we are fortunate. We have a nice pipeline of other former FBI agents and task force officers to draw upon. So we have 1099. So we have a lot of subcontractors that work for us that set up or help run our analysis side and law enforcement training side of the house. So we don't have a lack of talent. We have some very good talent out there that we can draw upon. We've also realized that there are some things that we can't do. Like we don't provide or make the software that we need to do the business that we do. So we've associated ourselves with other companies to try and partner with them so that when we do something for them, they can do some good for us. The same would be true for forensic services. So we do forensic services in PCA. Lance and I don't actually service the phone, but we've partnered with another organization that does that with us. And so we use each other to generate business for both of our worlds. So those are a couple things that's how our essentially our business is structured. But the day-to-day operations by far falls within Lance and I in our shoulders.
Okay. So, yeah, the two of you wear many hats then within the day-to-day operations of the business.
Yes,
very common. So as you look forward, what's the biggest challenge you have in front of you?
Lance.
Yeah, I'll start with Lance. Sorry. Yeah, Lance.
My mistake. I think it's learning and improving sales and marketing. It's just not something that we have experience or comes natural to us. So I think our biggest challenge to growth is figuring out those two tasks or those two areas.
I know you mentioned some of your core services that you currently have. Are you contemplating adding additional services, and what might those be in the near future?
We are. We've actually been asked to provide some spin-off training, if you will. So part of our process in teaching someone to be a cell phone expert witness, be able to testify in court, is teaching them how to testify. And what we found out is there's a huge need right now in the law enforcement community to just teach people how to testify, how to be a good witness. Generally speaking, they receive very little training, an hour or two at the academy, if anything, and no update training, no recurring training. So, while our cell phone analysis training is appealing to a very small percentage of the law enforcement community, general testimony training is appealing to pretty much everyone if they haven't had good training. All you have to do is look at a tape of the Willis, the DA from Georgia from yesterday, to get an idea of how bad testimony can look when it's done poorly. Right. So we want to teach police how to do it right. We don't want them to have those experiences on the stand where they've spent hours and hours and maybe taken personal risk to solve a case or to stop a situation, and then lose it in court because they testified poorly when it's not really their fault because nobody taught them. So we're spinning that off. We're pretty excited about it. We're calling it Courtroom Shield, and it's going to be a one-day class that we're starting with. So that's going to be rolling out in the next month or so.
Exciting. Kevin, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, that's Lance pretty much, he laid it out fine there.
So where do you guys are a couple years into this? Where do you see this going? You look, 3-5 years down the road. What's your dream for the business?
I know that Lance and I share pretty much the same goal here, and that is we both talked about in about 5 years we'd like to be in a position where either our company is up and running and runs itself, and we have the right people, the trusted folks running it for us, and we're stepping back in more of a leadership or guiding role, and then we're both fully retired. Or the other option is that our business becomes lucrative enough where it's attractive to someone and they might want to buy it from us. So one of the two, that would be our 5-year goal.
Okay. So, similar for you, Lance, sounds like?
Yeah, I think so. At least that's the personal path. I think for the business itself, within a few years, we'd like to be the easy button for the insurance industry, if you will, when they have cases that involve cell phones or different types of fraud that could be resolved with cell phones. We want to be the easy button. They contact us and we handle it for them. Right now, that doesn't exist. If they're doing it, it's piecemeal at best. So we'd like to get into that market. We'd like to expand our training both within the country and internationally. And we'd like to create kind of a soft landing spot, if you will, for folks coming out of the FBI that have our training, that they've got a spot they can transition out of law enforcement and into retired life and sort of work at something they're good at, but not worried about being called out in the middle of the night for missing children or something like that, because that does take a toll. So there's a number of different directions we'd like to go and things we'd like to achieve before we're done.
So you're a couple of years into this. You come in as kind of new to business ownership. What's your advice to other folks? You have a lot of folks who watch this series who are new to being a business owner as well. What advice would you share those other entrepreneurs who are starting up a business? I'll start with Kevin.
I guess the greatest advice I can give is to keep going. When Lance and I started this endeavor, we used to joke amongst ourselves, it's either going to be a dumpster fire or it's going to be something that's going to make some money. And thankfully it hasn't been a dumpster fire. So we did put in a lot of time and effort, and with time and effort, I think you're going to see some results. And that's why we're seeing the results on our end. So you kind of get what you put into it. So keep going. Don't give up, and then also keep expanding your vision about what your business is. in our case, we can go in a lot of different directions because the opportunities for us are there, in a sense that there are different subfields, if you will, that we can explore with our skill set. And we're doing that. And I feel like by doing that, we're generating more business. People are starting to notice us more because we're branching out into other areas that are obviously relevant to what we're doing, but also areas that we can provide a very good service.
Lance, anything you'd like to add upon that?
No, I think Kevin covered it.
Yeah, very good. So I'm curious, as you come in, you talked about a couple different areas that were very new to you, being part of business ownership. I'm curious, how are you training you guys are trainers, right? You provide training. How are you learning and growing? How are you growing your skill sets? Are there any books or podcasts or any other training that you're taking part in?
Formalized training, no. What we have been fortunate is to find some excellent mentors who've been willing to generous with their time to explain some things we don't know, to make introductions, to help us solve some of these problems. So we've been really, really lucky. And most of those are the folks that grew out of the law enforcement community and then got established in business ahead of us. So they're sort of sympathetic to helping us bridge that gap. And then the other big thing is when we find a shortfall, we go find a person to fill it. So they're not full-time employees, but it may be just somebody that we can call on periodically. But we try and find the right person and reach out and get it, rather than trying to solve everything ourselves.
Likewise, Kevin, any particular areas you're trying to grow and learn in?
Yeah, I'll tell you, the LinkedIn has been amazing for us. It has brought so many different connections to our plate. And like Lance says, when we're missing something or we need advice in a certain area, it's been easy for us to find it and to network into it. And we take advice. We've had countless Zoom calls and meetings with folks that are in different fields that are not in law enforcement, and just advising us on little things like, for example, advertising. What's effective, what's not effective. Is a mailer going to work for you? Is it not? So we're always exploring ways to communicate with people and to learn about what will help us. Because we need some help sometimes.
That's so powerful for the listeners. I hope that take note of what Lance and Kevin just shared. A lot of times it can be a trap for business owners, whether it's being stubborn or just afraid to ask for help. But there's all kinds of people out there who blazed the trail before. We're more than happy to help. You just need to ask, all right? But don't try to do everything alone on your own. So people will provide lots of connections, lots of input and education. You just got to reach out and then make those connections sometimes. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just follow up on that, Todd. It's been hard. We came from a community that is it doesn't necessarily reach out for help, right? Everyone's a type A personality. They keep it, I can handle this, I can take care of it. You have to get beyond that. You have to learn that there are people out there that can help you. And if you don't allow that to happen, you're not gonna make it.
So guys, as we get closer to wrapping up our time here today, time flies. What are the best ways for folks who are interested to learn more, for them to follow and to connect with PCA and the two of you?
Lance?
Well, yeah. Our website is pcaexperts.com. You can get a hold of us through there. We have a phone number, info sheet there. On LinkedIn, the same, Precision Cellular Analysis. You can follow us on there. We try and do at least weekly posts of something interesting in that community, and we'll be happy to connect with you, to link up, return your emails, whatever works best for you, for somebody's interested.
Kevin, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I just want our listeners to know that there might be some curiosity about just what exactly are these guys doing with phones. So if you answer this simple question, do you need to know something about what's going on inside a cell phone? Do you need to know what text messages were sent or communications that were going on? Or most importantly, location. Do you need to know where something or someone was when something happened? That's where we come into play. That skill is what we brought to law enforcement time and time again, and it helped us find missing people, solve countless crimes. Is by exploiting the data that comes off of a cell phone. So that, by the way, that transcends law enforcement. That's everywhere. So in the civil legal side of the house, divorce cases, any car accidents, any time where there's some question about what was happening during the period of time when something went wrong, we're the people to call.
I'm glad you provided that summary, actually, because I shared with a friend of mine the service you provided just last week, and he mentioned, "Boy, I sure wish I'd had that like 6 months ago," because he was involved in a car accident, and he ended up with a dispute because he thought the other person was at fault, and ended up having to go to court. And he's like, "If it had that kind of data, I could have proved that actually the woman was on her cell phone when she hit him."
Yeah,
kind of
absolutely.
So,
we do those cases.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, thank you for that. Again, encourage folks to go out and check them out on the website and also on their social media channels as well. Even more information, understand the services that Kevin and Lance's team provide. So as we look to wrap up here today, gentlemen, I always like to wrap up with, hey, what do you leave here today inspired by? What inspires you today? So Lance, what inspires you?
Well, work-wise, I love that moment when we're teaching the class, and this happens almost every class. And you get through a certain section of the class, and somebody invariably yells out from the back, "I just solved my murder," or "I just solved this rape," because they learned how to use the skill, or learn how to use the data they already had. And when we show them how to use it, and they go ahead and map it, they're like, "He's right there at the crime scene." So I love that moment, and it's not exaggeration to say it happens almost every single class when we teach law enforcement. Somebody solves a significant felony right there in the class.
Wow, how rewarding that's got to be, right?
Yeah, it's great.
That kind of breakthrough. So, Kevin, how about you?
Yeah, I think with mine, it's parallel to that. I get calls. I got a call this morning from someone needing help, with a phone, and I can help them. And that's the most how do I say it? The most rewarding thing for me is that in a retired status, I can still give back to people that need our help. I don't need to be employed by the FBI still. I could still do this on my own and bring value to people's lives.
All right. Well, hey guys, thank you. I mean, to talk about impact from providing the services and the expertise that you have. So, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing your story. And for those listeners, again, encourage you to reach out, learn more about Precision Cellular Analysis at the website and through the social media channels. And in particular, if you know anybody in law firms, especially civil disputes, as well as kind of leaders within insurance companies, if they don't know Kevin and Lance, they probably should. So make sure to make any of those kind of connections. So again, viewers, we're grateful to have you here join us, and remember to like this discussion today, as well as go out and subscribe to the channel so you'll receive future drops like we had today from other inspiring business leaders like Lance and Kevin. Thank you all, and hope you all have a terrific day.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.